Hello everybody, what's going on, and welcome to another Rush Royale video here on More Muffin. Now today we are going to be taking a look at support units. Now these are units that don't necessarily do the most damage for you, or they're not really meant to do the most damage for you. They are there to support your main DPS unit. Now there's some units that will indirectly support, some that directly support. There's also some support units that are a bit toxic. And there's some support units that will actually become DPS units with talent. So all a bit confusing. So we're going to take a look at some of those here. Now, from the very beginning, you can have sort of support units, i.e. the Bombardier is technically a support unit. He stuns monsters on the field as they're going away. As you can see, that says an 18% chance to stun them. Cold Mage, I would consider a support unit because he slows targets down to help your DPS unit do the damage needed. See, from the very start for your starter decks, you can have those support units. Now, as you keep on going on, you'll get rare units pretty quickly. Support unit again. Directly supporting your DPS unit like the Banner. Now, Banner will increase your attack speed of units connected to it, so above it and next to it, either side. You can have as many of them as you want, but it's only the highest merge one that will actually affect any DPS unit attached to it. So yeah, attack speed for that one. Cauldron support generates you mana, pretty good, especially in the early days. Chemist, another support unit. This one will break armor, so it makes your DPS easier to eliminate monsters as they go along, decreases their armor. Then we've got Grindstone as well. Grindstone, similar to Banner in the setup, you need it touching the unit that you want it to affect. This one, it does also do damage as well. Not so much. They changed it, didn't they? They changed Grindstone not long ago in the way it works. If you check out the info, it will tell you exactly what it does. So the Grindstone does not attack, but allows the adjacent units to inflict additional damage. So it increases the damage output of a unit that is touching it. But it does also do damage itself with the talents. So if you look at the talents on this bad boy, for instance, sparks that will hit around a monster, so it does damage. So read these, especially like the common and rare talents are really easy to unlock nowadays because they've changed how they unlock them. So you only need 40 gems or only 40 cores and 2,500 coins to unlock talents. These will change how these units act, and they become more and more useful. Priestess, sort of support, sort of on the fence. She gives you mana, but she also does damage. Early days, I think she's brilliant. Even Sharpshooter, you wouldn't use Sharpshooter as your only damage unit. You use him as a support, mainly for bosses, because his damage is massive, especially against bosses. So if you read his card, attacks the monster with the most health and deals increased damage to bosses and mini-bosses. So it goes into crazy shooting mode and increasing his attack speed. So you wouldn't use just him with other support units. You'd use a main DPS like Inquisitor, for instance, is quite popular with Sharpshooter. And it just helps. That's what they're there for. They're there to help. As you go into the epic ones, Catapult. I don't think I've ever used a deck with Catapult in it, but does very similar to Bombardier with the stun duration. Mime is a good support unit. Not Mime, this is Clown. They all look alike. This is Clown. I've never even used Clown since they've released it, so I don't really know what he does. I'm no help with that one, unfortunately. You could almost say that the Earth Elemental is a support unit because you would use it next to something in a Venom deck, probably with Banshee here, because it supports rather than being the main damage. So they're on the cusp of being DPS stroke support, but we're looking at mainly support. Another weird one that I've never really used is Gargoyle. I've never used him. I don't know. Gargoyle is a DPS unit. I don't think he's support. I don't think he'll provide any support. Even here with Executioner, sort of support, because he's very similar to the Reaper in that he finishes off. There's a health level after finishing off has to be 29.5%. So if you read his info, the Executioner attacks the very first target on the path of the target's health drops below a certain percentage of their maximum health. The Executioner attack instantly kills them. So I would consider that support rather than any sort of DPS. Mime is literally just support. So Mime you can place on any unit at the same merge rank. It levels up and turns into something else. Purely support. Portal Keeper, definitely a support unit, moving units around. You'd never use Portal Keeper for your DPS ever. Very, very useful. More useful back in the day rather than now. I don't think many people still run Portal Keeper in their decks because most people would go to using Scrapper with his new talents, or just keep moving stuff until they get what they need in the right position. Mainly probably Blade Dancer with Portal Keeper. And like a Reaper is definitely a support unit in my view. Although if you put him in a co-op game, he becomes really, really useful and can take out most waves on his own if you get him high enough ranked. Mainly with his talents, so it's got to be with his talents. On his own, without talents, no. But once you got him talented up, he can be really good. He can be deadly. He could probably be your main DPS. Even Vampire. Vampire recently got talents as well. I haven't unlocked him yet. He, even low level, he's pretty good because he does damage, but he also takes mana from monsters at a good rate as well. He damages. Where is it? Yeah. So Vampire attacks the first target and does not have the bite effect. If there's no available targets, he attacks the first target on the path. Grant additional mana until they die. So yeah, pretty good for getting a little extra mana. Almost like Cauldron, but also deals you some damage. Once you start unlocking the legendaries, this is where your support units are key. So once you get to 2,000 to 3,000 crit, you're going to want to start using some of the main support units. So damage. Corsair, I would say, is, yeah, damage, maybe support. Nobody really uses it much. I think it caught a pretty hefty nerf before, and it's not that good anymore. Demonologist is support because she will give you more mana. Once you merge them together, they give you mana. Good support. Again, you would never use it as DPS, never use it as damage. Dryad, of course. If you don't know Dryad by now and you're playing this game, massively useful support. Will level up any of the same merge rank to the next merge rank. Very useful, but less and less seen now because of the Scrapper talents, which we'll obviously cover when we get there. Harley Quinn. I love Harley Quinn. Very good. Weird that you can copy any of the same merge unit. You do get a slight damage nerf, but if you've got something like a Portal Keeper, you can move it. That goes away. Or if your equipment's got the what's it called? I can't remember what it's called now. Oh god. What's it called? I need to know what it's called. Counter spell. That's it. Counter spell. If you've got counter spell, eventually that will probably take that out for you. You won't need to worry about it. But very useful. Like I said, I've never used the other version, this version of it, Clown. I can never remember what it's called. It's called Clown. Never used it. I think Harley is better. Inquisitor are 100% DPS, but is one of the main units that needs support. On her own, you wouldn't use it without any form of support, i.e. Knight Statue, Banner, Witch, Sword, anything like that. I think she would be terrible without any of those. And now we're coming to the main ones here. So Hex, I don't really ever see used unless it's with a Boreas deck, because this increases instant kill chance as well, like the Reaper, but it doesn't do any damage on its own. It's literally there just for that. Knight Statue is probably, with Sword, one of the most used support. So Knight Statue will increase your, I think it's your attack speed. Yes, attack speed of the adjacent units, as well as gain increased chance of critical damage. So it increases your chance of hitting your crits, and it gives you attack speed as well. So very popular, especially with Blade Dancer. And now that it's got talents as well, it makes it even more useful, because with talents, especially this first one, Sharpened Spear, you don't need it actually touching the units. You can put it on anywhere, and it will support any units that are horizontal and vertical to it. So very, very useful. If you can get that on your nightstand, even better. I've just unlocked the second talent for it as well. Not the best second talents. I want to get the third ones in, really, but it takes a long time to get them. Clock. At mid to low level, you won't see any clocks. To high level, you'll see clocks. Clocks increase and decrease speed, as you can see. So it reduces the opponent's speed and increases yours. Good for co-op as well, if you're co-oping with somebody, especially for the bosses. Monk only ever really needs one form of support, and that's from Sword. Sword, for me, is probably the most important support unit in the game. If you don't have Sword, a Sword on its own without any talents is perfectly fine. What you do with them is you merge them together. So 2 merge ones, you merge them together. It releases 3 buffs now because they've just increased it. 3 buffs onto 3 random units that increases their damage. And once you get them to 10 blue orbs on 1 unit, it then increases, I think it's critical damage, isn't it? So let's just have a quick read. It also does red as well for the opponent. So we'll cover that in a second. But the boost stack, upon reading the max number of units, you need to get increased critical damage. So that's what you're looking at, and that's what Monk's good at. You get that intersection, Monk on a 10, perfect, absolutely perfect. Sword is the only unit that can be both DPS and support and toxic support. Toxic because of the red swords. Red swords go to your opponent's side, and it decreases their damage. Not as OP as it used to be since they changed it. But with the talent, you can also change sword into DPS. So the first one will change it into a ancient sword, and when you merge swords together, all the orbs go to that one sword, and it increases its damage by 100%, attack speed by 100%. There we go. Brilliant. I mean, it's such a versatile card, and it is so important. That's why I've got mine up to level 14. It will be level 15 by the end of next season, and I'll get it to max level. After that, I want to do my nightstand as well. These cards are so important to do. Everybody will probably go for damage first, which is sort of what I did. I got Blade Dancer pretty quickly max because I just kept getting Blade Dancer cards. Also Monk and Inquisitor, and I was like, you should really do your support cards because they are so useful later on. I'm at 3.5 crit now, 3,500 crit, and I'm regretting not doing them because I find that I need all those talents on them now to compete. You really do. But yeah, very important sword. Probably the most important support card in the game. As is Scrapper now with his talents. Scrapper's replaced Dryad as the main way of leveling up your units. You don't want to put both in the same deck because for Scrapper you need 3 eats to be able to level up something. Where if you have Dryad, I think it's like 6 or something like that, which is it was at the bottom here. Yeah, so Dryad in the deck in addition to Scrapper, additional 3 charges will be required to increase the unit's rank. So do not play them together. That's simple. But most people will just run Scrapper now rather than Dryad, because not only will you get the levels up, you can eat what you want that's on your board and you don't have to worry about it. This guy, status is nobody uses status. Nobody uses them at all. Summoner's pretty good though. Summoner is good for merge decks if you're looking to get a lot of units. Again, talents is very important. I always use enhanced summoning rather than multiple summoning now. I think it's better because you can just change that summoner into something else, like, and get rid of it very, very quickly. And probably one of the other more common support units will be Trapper. Very similar to Chemist with Armor Destruction. Most people will use Trapper in most decks if you're looking for support. And then we come to the slightly too toxic ones, which is Witch. Everybody hates Witch users because its first main ability is to send a curse across to the other side. If your unit gets hit by that curse, it starts healing monsters. When it first came out, this was awful. Nobody liked this. And it's still pretty bad now, especially if you get talents on it, because the first talent, if you don't use Gift of the Raven, it does 2 instead of 1. 1 does disappear, but then it's just annoying. Gift of the Raven changes how Witch works, so turns it into more like a knight statue or more like a banner. I think it mainly does damage, correct, if I'm thinking. Increases damage, yeah. So you could use Witch with, say, banner. So Witch will do damage increase, banner would do speed, but if you want that, you should probably just use knight statue. I don't really use Witch that often. Maybe I'm missing a trick with it. And of course, that leads us to Shaman. Purely toxic support. Nobody should play Shaman or Witch in the same deck. If they do, we hate you. But Shaman is literally, you merge them together, it sends a Shaman curse across, which will derank or destroy, if it's rank 1, the opponent's unit. And it's so annoying to play against. Hate it. Everybody hates it. Nobody likes people like that. But that is basically all of your main support units. And remember, you want to be using these in conjunction with your main DPS. If you look at what I'm rocking at the moment, this isn't really what I was messing around with this the other day. My Inquiz with Knight Statue, so main support for Inquiz, and then Trapper and Chemist for the extra armor destruction. Basically more support for Inquisitor. So Inquisitor is my main DPS. Then my main support is Knight Statue. Using the spear means I don't have to have them next to each other, and that also means that any chemists and trappers in the line, horizontal or vertical, are also getting that buff from the Knight Statue. I don't think this one was when I was messing around in co-op earlier. This is probably my main Blade Dancer deck at the moment, running it with Trapper and Chemist. I did try Sharpshooter for a bit, but I think they've nerfed it now. Again, no Portal Keeper anymore, because we're just doing it purely on RNG, which sometimes can get pretty annoying. My main Monk deck, which has got Sword, of course, and Summoner for the extra units. And then my other Blade Dancer deck, this is probably my main PvP deck, which is with Sword and using the other talent for Blooming Dash on Blade Dancer. Don't need to have them together anymore. It's mainly about moving, and it's the only deck that I will use Portal Keeper with, because you have to move him. And Dryad as well. I don't use Scrapper in this deck either, just Dryad. I never thought about using Scrapper in this deck, but maybe I could. But that's it. Main DPS unit is Blade Dancer, support. And that's what you get through. Once you get to the higher levels, you only have one DPS unit. You don't need more than that. Lower levels, you probably use 2 or 3 with either, a Cauldron, Banner if you want to, or the other style of support decks like Chemist, etc., Sharpshooter. But most of it is just trial and error. See what other people are doing. See what you like and enjoy playing with. But that is support decks in a nutshell. I won't bother doing a toxic deck walkthrough or anything like that, because it's only really these two here. Red swords don't really count as too bad. They go away after a while anyway. But yeah, that's pretty much it. That is your support decks. If you've got any more suggestions or videos to do with units, decks, how to play the game, etc., etc., make sure you drop it down in the comments section below. Smash the like if you've enjoyed the video. I appreciate that. And maybe there'll be some streams on some Rush in the very near future, maybe. In the meantime, though, I'll catch you in the next one. Bye-bye.